Hello and welcome to Mark's NOTCAST, in which me, Mark, does not a podcast where I talk to my mobile phone about things I like, love, or merely own. It is the 6th of January 2026. This is number 477. Oh my, that's a big number. And today I am continuing on from the previous episode I did yesterday. I am talking about my favourite comedy movies because even though it is the 6th of January, we are less than a week into this year. This year is not a great year because obviously America has already invaded Venezuela and it's not even Wednesday. So instead, I thought, because like a lot of middle-aged men, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Unlike most of them, none of the ones I listen to are about football. I listen to a lot of ones about films and music and interviews. The now ended Mark Maron, for example, is one which I've listened to a lot over the years. One of the other ones I listen to a lot is by Amy Nicholson and Paul Shear. It's called Unspoiled. They talk about films from the AFI's top 250 films, Variety's top 100, and various other metrics. And as mentioned in the previous episodes, one of the ones that they've most recently discussed is Variety's top 100 comedy movies. And whilst listening to that and having a look at Variety's top 100 comedy movies, I've decided I have a completely different list of top comedy movies. Yesterday, I did numbers 40 down to number 21. I spent a fair amount of time in the 70s and 80s, where it's fair to say cultural attitudes have changed since then. Now I am going from 20 down to number 1, the best comedy movie ever, according to me, which of course is a purely personal opinion, and other opinions are available. At number 20 then, I am going to go for a film some of you probably aren't expecting me to talk about, Legally Blonde. That's absolutely right. It's an unmissable movie according to the sticker, just in case I only ever bought the stickers with unmissable movies written on them. I should take that sticker off. I don't understand why they put stickers on for things like that, really, because you're going to sit there and go, what am I going to, oh, that one's unmissable. No, it's Legally Blonde. And this is a 2001 comedy about a woman going to law school based upon a book of the same name. The book is less funny, apparently. And I love this film. It like a lot of great comedies, holds the mirror up to and punches through the bubble of sexism and patriarchy and masculinity and all those things, whilst also providing a damn good fun romp. And it also has, by the way, a fantastic legal argument, one of the best courtroom scenes ever at the end. Perhaps not one of the most serious courtroom scenes ever shot, but certainly one of the best ones. And I really, really enjoy this film. It's one of those films, as I mentioned in the previous episode, it's a hangout movie. You watch it, you hang out with the characters, you have fun experiences with them on the way, and you just enjoy yourself, and you go, yep, these are people that I'd quite like to spend time with, voluntarily spend time with. You know, some films, they're hangout movies, and you kind of go, I don't ever want to meet these people in real life. For example, pretty much anything with Sam Worthington in, because the man is a charisma vacuum, at least when I see him on screen. He may be incredibly funny and witty in real life, but that doesn't show in any of his acting. Whereas this, it's just going, yep, that's great, love it. So Legally Blonde, number 20. Now, carrying on from the theme, number 19. Again, one that you probably wouldn't expect, but also features the world's most immortal man who never, ever ages. That, of course, is, I think, Paul Rudd in one of his earliest on-screen appearances. It is Clueless, a remake of Jane Austen's Emma set in the current day, and I just enjoy watching these people go through these experiences. Makes me laugh, gives me a nice warm ready brick glow. I just really, really enjoy it. I haven't seen it for a long time. In fact, I only bought the DVD this week because it's one of those films that I feel like sometimes you don't actually have to own to like. It's on television most days, even more often than Hot Fuzz, and so therefore a fun film which you don't actually need to own on Blu-ray or DVD. It's probably on streaming because almost everything is on streaming apart from the stuff I actually want to watch. This leads us to number 18. It's got one of my favourite lines of any film of all time. And the line is, I am sober and that's a terrible mood to be in. The film is by Armando Iannucci. It is The Death of Stalin. A fantastic tragicomedy set in Russia when in the day immediately after Stalin's death, where Stalin's reputation was so fearsome that nobody actually wanted to go in and check if he'd died in his sleep because they didn't want to disturb him. And then having found out that he had died, it's then a massive comedy of errors as everyone tries to deal with that information, process it appropriately, and reveal it to other people in a way that doesn't end their career. Career best performances, especially by, I think, Jason Isaacs, totally knocks it out of the park there. He's brilliant. In fact, almost all of them are, come to think of it. I enjoy watching every character in this, and obviously, I think one of them, I think was it Jeffrey Tambor, there are allegations around his behaviour. They do not show on screen. And I saw this film before those allegations came out. It is one of those films about and as I've said before, comedy is very similar to horror. It's about subverted expectations and ridiculous circumstances. And comedy works on a very instinctual level. It doesn't work necessarily on an intellectual level. You don't have to explain it to enjoy it, in the same way that you don't have to necessarily fully understand how the combustion engine works in order to drive. But what you do have to do is to be invested in it. And you've got all these different personalities with their different foibles, their different elements, aspects and understandings of situations, then entering into a bizarre and unusual situation, and then seeing the change of power in Russia as Stalin dies. And obviously, as we know, nature and politics abhors a vacuum, and somebody has to come in to take control of it. It is funny, it is dark, it is somewhat ridiculous, and a lot of it is based upon what really, really happened, by the way. So that is number 18 on the list. This one I watched recently, and it seems to be less of a comedy and more of a documentary. Team America, World Police. Like a lot of films, it is a satire and an exaggeration of an existing genre. And if you've watched films like Missing in Action, Missing in Action 2, Missing in Action 3, Iron Eagle, all those films in which the Americans go in and save the world from itself, Team America is a glorious piss take of all of those. The whole thing, by the way, in case you hadn't worked out, is in marionettes. That's not a joke. The whole film is in Thunderbirds, marionettes, basically, like Thunderbirds, Joe 90, all those type of things. And it's glorious. It's a musical. It is a biting satire upon American foreign policy. Every location that's listed in the film is then shown by its distance from America, for example, because America obviously is the world, and it is fulfills all the tropes that you've got: the montage, the man out of place, the tragic death, the action sequences that clearly are based upon The Matrix and Karate Kid and James Bond movies, but also at the same point come from a loving homage, and at the same point laughing at the ridiculousness of those films. It has some fantastic action scenes. In the song itself, America Fuck Yeah is one of the best songs in a film of all time. And with Kim Jong-un, or is it Kim Jong-il? I can never remember, and I don't particularly care. Kim Jong-il, I think, who is referred to at one point as King Jong-2 by Hans Blix, the United Nations weapons inspector. Points out, obviously, the fallacy of international diplomacy, saying if you don't let us see your secret weapons, we'll write you a letter and we'll be very angry. This edition comes with a bumper sticker. That, of course, precludes that I got to have a car to stick the bumper sticker on, and the willingness to stick the bumper sticker on the car, to the answer of which is no, no, and no. You never do stuff like that. It is the Weapons of Mass Destruction edition. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means. It's a silly film. It is like the other Trey Parker and Matt Stone movie, South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut. It is an equal opportunities comedy. It will offend anyone and everyone for any reason whatsoever. And if you watch it all the way through to the credits, it even mocks those fantastic kind of films that set up a sequel that never actually happens, because it reveals the secret subplot of Kim Jong-il's place, which is he is an alien from the planet Gyron who has come to overtake Earth and enslave it, but failed. You don't have to watch all of the credits, but it's a fantastic song if you do. Right. That's number 17. What's number 16? Well, before X-Men, before Spider-Man, before, well, not before Superman, before the DC universe, the Marvel universe, the hero universe, the horrorverse, all of these things, before the X-Men even came out, we had Mystery Men, a fantastic superhero movie that is built upon superheroes that have useless powers, that grossly overestimate their abilities. It features Eddie Izzard as a disco dancing bad guy. It features a superhero who wears sponsorship decals like a Formula One race car. It features Tom Waits, because Tom Waits is in all the best films, of course, including, I think, The Imagination of Dr. Parnassus. And it features some fantastic kind of little spots from, although, you know, Ben Stiller is in it. We also get William Macy, who, by the way, I was listening to the commentary on this a few weeks ago. He wanted to grow a moustache, and he was talked out of growing a moustache for his character by the film's director, who is, and I can't find him on here, but who's never actually made a film since, which is a tragedy, because this is a comic masterpiece. If you love horror, if you love hero movies, superhero movies, you need to watch this. This expertly skewers everything and is years ahead of its time. It features some fantastic one-off jokes, some gleefully stupid elements that are absurd in their ridiculousness, and really, really enjoy it, including, of course, a character who is Mr. Invisible, but he only becomes invisible when no one is looking at him. Almost as bizarre as the blog from 2008, which I suspect was inspired by. This blog was called Super Useless Superheroes, and it features a guy called 13 Bulletproof, which means you shoot him 12 times and the bullets go in. The 13th time, bulletproof. To which his description was bang, 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 dink, which kind of just exploded how. Obviously, also in-flight flight, which means a person who could fly, but only if they were inside a plane that was already flying. I mean, wonderful. Anyway, Mystery Men is a great movie, and it obviously has Eddie Izzard in it as well, who is just marvellous. So I think this brings us down to number 15, possibly number 14, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. Number 15, and this is one of my favourite British films by one of my favourite British directors. It is a film where, if, as I've said before, the homogenisation of culture in Britain and America is that you generally will watch films set in America and you'll go, that's Chicago, that's Prague for tax purposes, that's Vancouver. I had that moment when I was in Chicago and I was on the, not the subway, but the metro, and I was kind of going, that alleyway, yeah, that was in the Matrix. That used to have a telephone box in it, and then go through another section. That was in the Blues Brothers. And another section where you go, I think that might have been, that might have been in Anchorman, for example. All these types of experiences. This film is set in the Britain that I recognise. In fact, one of the homes that occurs in this film is one that actually is like a mass-produced council home. I lived in a council flat in, council house actually, in Leicester when I was at university. Now, this was a very long time ago, as you can tell by my hair, or lack thereof. And when I went into a similar property in Derby, I walked in and I said to the person that lived there, I know exactly where everything is in here. This is the entrance hall. Then there's a living room. There's a bathroom, toilet at the back, stairs that go up round the back, 3 bedrooms, one there, and a small, thin, long one on the side. And they were like, how do you know? And I went, I went into exactly the same place in Leicester, on the lovingly named Battenberg Road, of all places, in Leicester, next to a Chinese takeaway that is now closed. This film is directed by, I think, Ben Wheatley, who is an underrated director who also made one of my favourite sequels, The Meg 2. It is Sightseers, featuring 2 pretty unexciting British serial killers, like the Fred and Rose West of the 2010s who are, naturists in so much as they like going to visit things like Stonehenge and stone circles. They visit pencil museums. They go around in a caravan, and they're kind of boring, mundane British people that are happy together, apart from the fact they just happen to kill people. And it's got one of my favourite lines of dialogue. He's not a person, he's a Daily Mail reader. If you read the Daily Mail, you'll understand where I'm coming from with that. And it's got a fantastic set of taglines, such as "Fear has a cold nose," i.e. the dog there. I love this film. It is, although it says it's a sight worth seeing and blisteringly funny, it is in fact just a very mundane British murder comedy that is kind of like if somebody remade Natural Born Killers but set it in Runcorn. I love this film to bits, and I strongly recommend it. Number 14. I have a lot of editions of this film, primarily because it was it's probably one of the very few comedies that doesn't really have a bad guy. It just has two people with opposing worldviews. It is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. One of the funniest, silliest, loveliest films. It's got a good heart, and it's just about a teenager that has a day off from going to school all day, every day, endlessly. And if you've ever felt like throwing hooky from work or from school, I certainly had at the time, it was aspirational to kind of live like that. And of course features just lots of lovely moments around three people, a guy, his girlfriend, and his best mate, borrowing his best mate's dad's car and just having a silly, daft day off in Chicago and just enjoying themselves, going to ball games, sneaking into restaurant reservations, visiting art museums, and trying to get home before mum and dad get back. By the way, the original DVD of it has a commentary by John Hughes, and this commentary by John Hughes, I should point out, is not on later editions of the film, so it's not on the Bueller edition. So if you're a DVD nerd like me, you have to keep the original DVD release from the early days of DVDs, which I think this came out in about 1999-2000. So if you want to hear John Hughes' comments, and of course John Hughes didn't record many commentaries and stopped making films at a certain point. So number 13, really I should have set this one at number 11. This is Spinal Tap, a film that obviously, of course, has the tedious reunion film, which is not particularly good, and a sequel, The End Continues, which came out this year, Rob Reiner's last film. Rest in peace, Rob. And had The End Continues is not great. But Spinal Tap itself, this is Spinal Tap, and I have two editions of it. I don't quite know why I've got two editions of it. I think it's because this version might have two commentaries on it, one by Spinal Tap and one by the actors who play Spinal Tap. Is if you've ever been in a band, watched a band, near a band, heard of a band, if you've ever been in a rehearsal room with someone that won't stop whittling and going diddle-diddle-diddle-do in between every single fucking song, you can identify with this film. It's about three people that think they're geniuses that aren't, as they tour through America, fall apart, come back together, and play absolutely dreadful rock, which could convincingly convince some people that it's genuine. Having seen The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Heavy Metal Years by Penelope Spheeris in 1989 on BBC Two's Heavy Metal Heaven Night, which I think was around the 22nd of November 1989, I can confirm that, I don't know if Spinal Tap was shown that night, but certainly a lot of people who were in that documentary by Penelope Spheeris had not noticed that Spinal Tap was in fact a parody. This is just the comedy of the ridiculous and the absurd. People just, they know what they're doing. They know it's ridiculous, but they're playing it very, very straight. And the joke is everyone is laughing with them, not at them. I probably should have set that at number 11, shouldn't I, really? Anyway, lick my love pump. So this is number 12, and this has been voted at a Star Trek convention, I think the 7th best Star Trek film of all time. It should be higher than that. It is Galaxy Quest. If you've ever watched Star Trek, you will know this is exactly what that is about, even down to the rock monster. And the rock monster, by the way, appears in Galaxy Quest, was based upon something they couldn't afford to do in Star Trek V, which was also a rock monster. There is a glorious deleted scene that was taken out of this film, at the last minute, where the rock monster, as he ends or comes to the end of his rock life, is seen floating in space. That says something along the lines of, glorious, glorious peace. Because life as a rock monster was apparently, he was in constant pain. I don't quite know why, but there you go. That's how it was. Galaxy Quest is a lovely satire of the ridiculousness of Star Trek. By Grabthar's hammer, I will avenge thee. By Grabthar's hammer, what a savings. About stuck-up English actors that think they're too good for the role. Alan Rickman is amazing in this. Such an underrated comic actor. Tim Allen, obviously also the voice of Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story, plays it completely straight as a character that, if he isn't Captain Kirk, has probably tried to have sex with him. And Sigourney Weaver just knocks it out of the park. Also, honourable mentions for Sam Rockwell in here. Tony Shalhoub, who does a great job. Daryl Mitchell. The whole thing is just a wonderful kind of lovely, affectionate homage to terrible science fiction conventions, stuck-up British actors, and absolutely ridiculous plots. There's a meta-commentary about how true or believable some of the historical documents in the show called Galaxy Quest are. There is a lovely bit of ratio use in the scene where the film suddenly goes from being set on Earth to being set into outer space. They change aspect ratios, and they do it very quietly and very subtly, but everything that's set in outer space is in a wider aspect ratio. It's lovely. And film geek like me, if you hadn't already worked out I'm a film geek, I was like, oh, that is fantastic. Right, number 11. This is a lesser known movie. You absolutely should know it. According to the DVD box, it is very, 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 very funny. That review is from the News of the World. Not sure how true we should, or how much notice we should pay to them. What we should do, Black Dynamite. A glorious pastiche of blaxploitation films from the 70s with the side order of Paranoia. Black Dynamite is a alternate superhero in an alternate version of the 70s, fighting a conspiracy by a corporation to undermine equality in society. And if I remember rightly, it has a punch-up in the White House between Black Dynamite and the president. Glorious interludes, fantastic music, and is just a fun ride. It's a hangout movie. If you were watching, as I've mentioned before, when I talked about I'm Gonna Get You Sucker yesterday, when you're watching Black Dynamite, you go, with about 3% shaved off, this could be the most ridiculous, genuinely authentic film that there ever was. So, absolutely love it. Right, I think we're into the top 10. And top 10. So, again, a lot of the films that I've mentioned are not just kind of satires and parodies and pastiches. They're also genuinely very, very good films in their own right, in the genre in which they operate. And this is possibly the best sequel ever made. Yes, better than The Godfather 2. It is Gremlins 2, The New Batch, a film that, let me just quickly check, Joe Dante refused to make until he had complete creative control and final cut over the movie, which means that this came out 6 years after Gremlins in 1984. Gremlins was a horror comedy. This is a comedy horror, and there is a difference. Because, and by the way, if you haven't seen the Key and Peele sketch about the pitch for Gremlins 2, you absolutely need to watch it, because I think that's exactly how the pitch for this film went down. This has everything in it, and it is explicitly designed to comment upon how ridiculous and formulaic sequels are by doing absolutely nothing you would expect a sequel to do, and absolutely everything you wouldn't expect a sequel to do. It has the most glorious staging of New York that I've ever seen. The film itself gets derailed and taken over by the Gremlins, and there's a VHS version where they break into the TV broadcast of a John Wayne film, or they break into the cinema and take over the film that's being projected. It is magnificent. It also features Brain Gremlin, who is one of my favourite characters of all time, because he's an extremely brainy gremlin. It has a vampire bat gremlin. It has a weird kind of sex-obsessed gremlin that wants to marry one of the human characters. The whole thing is bizarre and ridiculous. And there's also, by the way, a character in it whose name I've forgotten, who I think is called Daniel Klump, who is played as a naive, daft businessman. It's just marvelous the way that his character is portrayed on screen in this film. It's clearly a commentary upon Donald Trump, but Donald Trump isn't smart enough to realise it's a commentary on him, and doesn't realise that everyone's laughing at him, not with him. And of course, who knew that Gremlins 2 would be such a great sequel? Because you go, sequels, they just repeat the same things. They go to the same places, like a James Bond film, follows the James Bond formula, unrelated mission at the start. Man goes and meets Q and M, gets given the mission, meets a dastardly industrial billionaire who wants to take over the world. Wait, is this a film or a documentary? Falls in love with someone, sleeps with them, kills them, not necessarily in that order, or they get killed by the billionaire's henchmen. Meets another woman, has sex with her, she gets killed, or maybe she lives, depending upon how inventive they're feeling. Fights the billionaire, famous international billionaire playboy, who wants to take over the world and populate it with a super race of his own people. Saves the world, and it's a formula. Sequels are a formula, and Gremlins 2 instead is one of the best films about sequels that's ever been made, because it just goes, I'm just going to mock every single convention that you can expect. As I've said before, comedy is about subverting expectations. Our expectations of a sequel are pretty tame these days, and anybody who's seen Too Fast, Too Furious, The Fastening or The Furiousning, they will know that sequels are just ridiculous. Here's a 35-mile long runway so that you can have a car chase on it. Like, that's like the distance if you drive from Birmingham to Leicester. Nobody has an airport with a runway that long, unless it's Vin Diesel. And so Gremlins 2 is one of the best films about sequels ever made. Of course, films about films are very important. There's plenty of them that have been made. This is a film that instead is talking about our expectations as an audience member of the film. And talking of films about films, how about a film about a TV character? Coming in at number 9, one of the more recent additions to the list, 2017's Mindhorn. It's truth time, and in a world of lies, one man can see the truth. Mindhorn is a very provincial, very British movie. It's set on the Isle of Man. It features a failed actor who is called in to solve one last case, pretending to be the detective that he used to be, and is just a very low stakes, low energy movie. Well, not low energy, but it's low stakes, low octane movie. It probably has a car chase between, I'm guessing, a Ford Fiesta and a Mini, for example, is probably the highlight of its action in there, in which a fabulous chap whose name I've forgotten and is printed far too small for me to read, plays Detective Mindhorn, who, thanks to a individual on the Isle of Man, believes that he is a real character, and therefore he has to suit up one last time to play his former TV identity to help solve a murder. It is as daft as it sounds, and I absolutely love it. It's just great. It's got fun. It's got some lovely lines in there. Too Many Biscuits is one of them, for example. I think Alan Partridge as Steve Coogan makes an appearance in there. It's a loving homage and pastiche of terrible British television, of all of those episodes of CSI Redditch, Miami, Florida, whatever that exist, and is it's a fun film about crime television. And my God, there's a lot of crime TV in the world, isn't there? Bring us to, and I think this is number 8 now. Number 8. I've mentioned this one previously in terms of, I've mentioned the genre, which is called Macaroni Combat, in case you don't know what Macaroni Combat is. And Macaroni Combat is the or maybe, yeah, it was like a version of a spaghetti western, was the genre in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, where washed-up American film stars would go to places like Italy and Bulgaria and film terrible low-budget World War II movies. Top Secret is that film. It is a parody of that genre. In fact, I saw the original 1978 Inglourious Bastards recently, and Top Secret is the most loving pastiche and parody of Top Secret that I've ever seen, coming from the same team that made Airplane. It is once again a joke every 8 seconds, and if you don't like that joke that's just happened, there's another one that's coming up, and it's probably got Pac-Man in it. It's got one of the best visual gags of all time, featuring Peter Cushing, but also one with a glamorous and gorgeously outsized phone. Scenes are shot backwards and then played forwards. There are some quite racy jokes in there. There is a couple of musical numbers by Maurice Jarre. Val Kilmer gives a star performance, and he is sorely underrated as a comic actor. Always was in his lifetime, and I know he wanted to be serious, and he did a lot of great serious work. He also made, some absolute tosh is the fair way to put it. Top Secret from the makers of Airplane is marvellous. It is parodied greatly in South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut, but at the same point it also kind of has a knowing wink to those macaroni combat movies. It's got some fabulous explosions, one including a car, one including a man made out of clay that falls off a castle. It's got an underwater fight scene for no reason apart from the fact that they can do it. It's just got some lovely moments that are in there. I just really rate it. It's funny, it's silly, and of course it also highlights how utterly ridiculous the Nazis are by making them as thick as pig shit. It also features the best visual joke about painting I have ever seen, and there aren't too many of them around. So that's number 8. Number 7, I believe, on my list. Yes, number 7. I had the good fortune to watch this very recently. It is one of the finest music films of all time, and it also features the line Nazis. I hate Illinois Nazis. It is the Blues Brothers. Again, a ridiculous concept that you can't take seriously, that somehow absolutely works within the world. It has its verisimilitude of a version of reality that resembles ours but isn't. Car chases galore. Carrie Fisher steals every scene she is in. Incredible actress Carrie Fisher was, and not recognised enough in her lifetime she was. Now this features the extended edition of the film, featuring the song Sink the Bismarck, and the shorter theatrical version of the film, as well as a whole bunch of extras. It's also got a moment that sticks with me, and I think about it every single day. John Belushi in the church, as the light pours through the church and the stained glass window, and it covers him in light, and he goes, "Hallelujah, I have seen the light," the moment of revelation. This is the day that your life will change. The Blues Brothers is one of the funniest films ever made. It's got the improbable plot. It's got the ridiculous car chases. It's got somebody killing Nazis, because, hey, that's what all good films have in them. It's just like a fun, lovely movie. I really enjoy it. And it's got, I think, the biggest car chase in the history of mankind, with the most cars destroyed. Given that it was made in 1980, it's probably got some sexist jokes in it, for which I cannot take responsibility for. Also, if I remember correctly, the car chase that is set in a shopping mall in the Blues Brothers is set in the same shopping mall that is in 1978's Dawn of the Dead, or is it Day of the Dead, which was then shortly demolished not long afterwards, by the way. Right, number 7, another appearance for one of cinema's loveliest people, Dan Aykroyd. It is Ghostbusters number 1, a both love letter to and a lovely, warm-hearted parody of horror movies. Of course, if you haven't seen Ghostbusters, never heard of Ghostbusters, I'm not quite sure what planet you're living on, but a planet without Ghostbusters is one you should leave immediately and go to this planet. It's again a lovely hangout movie. Yes, I think there are a couple of dodgy jokes in it, probably coming from Venkman's character, and a ghost blowjob sequence that went way over my head as an 11-year-old, and I only discovered kind of when I was watching it, probably when I was about 25, and went, wow, that bit wasn't on the TV version of the movie. Yeah, just you wait until they call him Wally Wick instead of Dickless. And yeah, Ghostbusters 1, any film that ends with a 300-foot tall Stay Puft Marshmallow Man terrorizing New York like some kind of bootleg candy version of King Kong gets the thumbs up in my book. And frequently I'm known to say nobody steps on a church in my town, and there you go. I can't really say anything articulate about Ghostbusters. It is a lovely hangout movie where you hang out with characters. Dan Aykroyd's character, and his reckless and lovely enthusiasm expands across the whole movie as he carries everybody away in his belief that he's absolutely correct, of course, that spirits are real and the afterlife exists. And by the way, it does. Also, Ernie Hudson. I did an inflation calculator check on the salary that he mentions in this film. Inflation adjusted, he would be earning about $40,000 a year for being one of the Ghostbusters. It's not very much money, seeing what's in there. Anyway, right down to the top 5. The youngest film on the list, and possibly one which you haven't necessarily heard of, from the visionary minds of Key and Peele, that also, by the way, made my favourite film of 2022, which is Nope and Get Out. We have Keanu. Keanu is a film about two guys that adopt a cat. The cat gets stolen and they go and try and find the cat. It is the simplest, loveliest, most purriest MacGuffin that we ever have, as these two guys are way, way, way out of their depth trying to track down a cat that's been adopted by gangsters in a drug deal gone wrong. And they're far from streetwise, and the kitten, Keanu, is catnapped, and the hopelessly straight-laced pair must impersonate ruthless killers in their quest. It is one of those snowball comedies where things just get weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder, and I love it to bits, and I watch it frequently, and I'd like to thank my friend for recommending it to me. Number 4, a rare opportunity not to watch it on television, Hot Fuzz. One of the best buddy cop movies ever made. Works perfectly in every way. It features a deep, deep and rich kind of visual language. Features probably the most realistic depiction of a model village I've ever seen. Some fantastic lines. Edward Woodward's Iwa chewing the scenery as if there is no tomorrow. Timothy Dalton in a career best appearance. A fantastic set of kind of kung fu fights between respective stuntmen and very ancient pensioners. Some absolutely murderous killers in there. All set inside what is like a cross between Midsummer Murders and Bad Boys, set in a small town in Britain. I love it to bits. It is hilarious, it's funny, and it, it has lines like, I'm not made of eyes, which is both true and funny. Love it to bits. And of course, by the way, the commentaries are well worth listening to. I believe one of the commentaries is by Quentin Tarantino. He doesn't do commentaries too often. One of the other ones is by a policeman who is the technical advisor on the film, and that is in itself well worth listening to. I love listening to technical commentaries, by the way, apart from the one that's on Titanic, because they're very po-faced about Celine Dion. I do not like that film, song. Number 3. Now, I had a really strange experience when I first saw this film, but I will share it with you. It is easily, well, it might actually not be the oldest one, but if it's not the oldest one, it's very close to being the oldest one on my list. It is Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator, a brave, bold, visionary kind of absolute deconstruction of the idiocy of Hitler that was made during his lifespan. And apparently Hitler put out an edict that if they could kill Charlie Chaplin, they should. They did not succeed. He plays a The dual roles of a Hitler-like adenoid Heineckel and a Jewish barber who is a dead ringer lookalike for him. There are puns, sight gags, slapstick, parodies, pointing out the ridiculousness and absurdity and the patheticness of dictatorships, of fascism, and in a speech that climaxes the end of the film, is one of the most powerful pieces of oration that I've ever seen on the screen. So much so it was used as part of the introductory film for U2's 2018 European tour, which, having seen that speech being broadcast in front of 20,000 people at stadium level volume, was one heck of an experience. The Great Dictator is one of the great films, and it shows that, as with all forms of comedy, the best comedy is punching up, and there is nobody that you can further punch up at than a paranoid, delusional, idiotic dictator who is clearly racist, sexist, homophobic, murderous, genocidal, and mind-numbingly cruel. And I strongly recommend this film. So I first saw this film, by the way, New Year's Day, 1999. I had been to see New Order and Underworld and the Chemical Brothers at London's Alexandra Palace from the 31st of December 98 through to the 1st of January 99 in an all-nighter show that started about 8 o'clock and finished at about 4-ish in the morning. And then we drove back to Birmingham with my friend Andy and Rachel. Andy, who died 3 years ago. God, I have 4 now. Jesus, I miss you, man. And he was a strong personality. But he dropped me off back at the house at about 6 in the morning, maybe 6:30. This was on at about 7 a.m. On New Year's Day. I stayed up, had breakfast, watched it, went to bed about 9 o'clock in the morning. A very important 12 hours. Fabulous film. Fabulous. Strongly recommended. Number 2. This might be older than The Great Dictator. It might be slightly younger. I think this one was made in 1942. This is Harvey with James Stewart. It is a fascinating film that goes into detail about the gap between reality and perception, about a man whose best friend is a 6-foot-tall puka, i.e. a rabbit called Harvey, who only he can see and nobody else can see, and everybody thinks he is barking mad. It is gentle, it is lovely, it is so old it doesn't even tell me what year it was made in, 1950. So, yep, The Great Dictator is older. I think The Great Dictator is, and I can't again find the copyright date on this, 1942 or thereabouts. And Harvey is a lovely, sweet film with a lovely, lovely heart. It's, like all comedies, it's got a touch of tragedy in it. It's about a sweet man who has a lovely worldview, harmless to everyone, misunderstood by the people around him, and his best friend is an invisible 6-foot-tall rabbit. And therefore, what complications does that put into your life? That's number 2. Right, number 1. Now, this is one of the few areas where I think I might agree with Variety. This is very recent. I saw it at the cinema when it came out. I watch it frequently. I tried to count how long this film lasts, and I worked out it was something like a minimum of 30 years. It is Groundhog Day. And it's about time this got to number 1. Groundhog Day is a film about growth. It's about a film about repetition. It's about the 1,000 stories that exist behind the 1,000 front doors, and wherever it is that you live, is that everybody who is around you is the lead character in their own life. They have lives, loves, feelings, dreams, aspirations, bad memories, good memories, terrible haircuts, all of them. But a man who is forced forever to live the same day of his life, endlessly and repetitively, until one day he reaches some form of spiritual awakening and then can finally move forward. It's a very, very interesting film. It talks to me about things like reincarnation, about things like trauma, about things like emotions and growth and everything else that goes with it. And at the same point, it's also a film about what it's like to live the same life and repeat the same events over and over and over again. And were you given infinite opportunities to live your life, would you make the same decisions? Would you follow the same paths? Would you have the same life? To which the answer is, of course, and can only be no. We are all time travelers, traveling forward through time, 1 second per second towards the future. As Indiana Jones said, making this shit up as we go along. And hopefully we have a pretty good idea of who we're going to be when we start off, and then we kind of follow that through as we go through life and continue to be the closest to a thoughtful, considerate human being that we can be. Not everybody succeeds. Some people aren't lovely human beings and don't realise they aren't lovely human beings. But that, of course, is a matter between them and their consciences, if they have any. So I am going to wrap up here, and thank you for spending 45 minutes with me whilst I talk for about 2 minutes per movie on my top 20 comedy movies. These are great films. I strongly recommend them to everybody. Of course, other senses of humour are available. Some are better than others, and I'm well aware that parts of my sense of humour aren't amazing or particularly palatable to everyone, but almost all of these films give you that warm, lovely feeling when you've watched it. You come to the end and you go, I spent my time well. I did not choose poorly, to quote Indiana Jones and the Last Crusades. And I'm going to wrap up here. In the meantime, have a good time all the time. Take care of yourselves and each other. Be excellent to each other and stay beautiful, beautiful ones. I will see you some other time. God knows when, God knows where, but I will. Right. Bye-bye.